Let's head into the papers now, see what the headlines are. And I have with me in the studio lawyer, public affairs analyst Jide Ologun, as well as senior researcher, TVC News Serial Abaku. Gentlemen, good morning.
Thank you.
Researcher, TVC News Serial Abaku. Gentlemen, good morning.
Thank you,
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Great. Let's start with the Daily Trust this morning. Daily Trust is where we begin. 6 years after, Chibok girls sighted at Sambisa Forest. Abductors ready for negotiation. Our sources are saying this. Okay? I guess this will certainly interest everyone right now. From there, let's go to the News Direct. Controversy trails ownership of $8.6 million seized by customs at Lagos Airport. Narco staff in customs custody. Okay, this controversy has been on since that revelation. Now, Blueprint is where we go next. On minimum wage is focusing. Kwara, Niger raise concerns. Taraba yet to set up a committee. Sani Bello begs. Abdurazak says not feasible. 16 states not complying and 16 implemented. NLC is revealing this. It rejects federal government's plan to borrow 2 trillion naira from pension fund. Okay, that's what you see on the Blueprint. From there, let's go to the Daily Times. And that's the last paper right now. Why government is seeking $17 billion loan from China, as the minister is trying to explain to Nigerians here. Says Nigeria has no issue with current debt profile, but with dwindling revenue. Okay, that's economic issues. Gentlemen, this headline certainly has been raising concerns. The issue of Chibok girls. We know how this has been close to the minds of a lot of Nigerians. In fact, most Nigerians have been reacting to this. And the Bring Back Our Girls campaign has been on since that time, and they've been doing, you know, a daily recap of how many days it has taken and all of that. It's 6 years now. And the fact that Chibok girls have been sighted, I wonder how this renews the hope that these girls will be home. Cyril, let me start with you on this.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's not the first time we will hear that they were sighting the Chibok girls in the bush. If you remember, if you recall very well, I think it was in the heat of the Chibok abduction when the British and other international people came to assist us. I think it was Governor Shetima of Borno then, who said they'd actually sighted them also in the forest. I think that if we are sighting the Chibok girls, according to sources that Daily Trust is attributing the story to, they want us to see them. And we do not know why they want us to see them, really. So until we verify why they want us to see them, I mean, we could have seen them.
When you say they, who is
the
it, the terrorists or the girls?
No, of course, the abductors. Okay. They want us to see them. There must be a reason for it. But I think that we have seen enough of the war of attrition by Boko Haram to take it on its face value that it is perhaps for negotiation. If it is, glory be to God. Let us do everything we can to rescue the remaining girls and do the best we can to bring them back to their families. But we need to tread very carefully. Government and those who are in the know of these things should verify, should be sure that these are the Chibok girls indeed. Like I said, verify and then set up channels for communication.
All right. Now, Jide, the government negotiated the return of some of the Chibok girls and Nigerians, and in fact, there was hope that the negotiation was going to be on to return the remaining girls, and Nigerians have been hopeful since then. Now, the abductors are saying we're ready to negotiate. From the headlines we see here, how much more of hope should we have that these girls will be home soon?
Talking about hope, we should keep hope alive, but this has become a huge embarrassment to my country, and in my personal opinion, I'm fully disappointed. You see, I had a high hope that these girls would be released. Let's go back to the fountain of all this. The Boko Haram kidnapped these girls. Thereafter, they have even gone to Dapchi to kidnap. Some have been released, and there was an allegation that huge ransom was paid. So we are wasting our resources on terrorism. And right now, we have been branded as one of the top terrorism nations in the world. So if you look at the cost we are paying, and like I mentioned earlier, Boko Haram started in the north. The northern elders should come together, and if recently somebody came to tell us Leah Sharibu is somewhere around Lake Chad, are we now saying that the intelligence capacity of our security operatives in Nigeria is deficient or what? It's an indictment. And we've been asking this question. Can we now, in the season of coronavirus, treat this national embarrassment as coronavirus? China built 1,000-bed hospital facility within 10 days to contain that virus. And it's been announced now that they have vaccine or whatever for it. So if this government is comfortable with where we are, so be it. But I have said something. Someday, we will get a clear picture of exactly what is going on. The foreign powers have come to help us, no way. And we have been spending billions. We have over 27,000 lives wasted, over 3 million displaced. So and one of the reasons why I went out in 2015 to vote for this government was my trust in the commander-in-chief of the armed forces now, my president, whom I admire so much, given his antecedents, that he was going to deal with this matter. But he told us that Boko Haram has been technically defeated. So maybe we will technically bring out the Chibok girls from Sambisa Forest. They told us they have conquered Sambisa Forest. It's a national embarrassment.
All right.
And like I mentioned at the time, you didn't allow me then to drive on it. If we have been calling for foreign power support, right now we are going to bring the Abacha loot from the US, then let Donald Trump come and help us handle this Sambisa Forest. You know, so we can solve this problem if there is a will to solve it.
Why do we need Donald Trump, who doesn't know the terrain like
why should we be? Why should we need Amotekun?
Yeah,
You know.
Why should
because the point there is,
let me say something.
you know,
this problem can be solved.
The issue there is that world leaders, African leaders, Nigerian leaders have always said that our solution lie with us. No
Where's
one
the
from
solution?
outside.
Our solution lies
it's-
with us,
it's-
and
it's
we
all-
export
it's
our
all-
crude
it's all
oil
just
to
about
refine
the
it
will.
out there, to bring in. We go for medical care there.
Okay.
Honestly, if you ask yourself, why is Nigeria poor today? Go and find out why Yemen and Afghanistan are poor nations in the Asia region. Because of all this terrorism, this crime, this kidnapping, perhaps we don't know the enormity of this crisis.
This Sambisa forest that we have always talked about, and sometimes in the minds of a lot of people who visualize it as one mangrove, heavy, thick, dark forest where you enter, you can't see it anywhere. It's not that way anyway, but we understand it's a large expanse of forest cutting across many states. And I wonder how Nigeria has not subdued every corner, every part of the country.
No, it's not difficult. I don't think Boko Haram itself has the numbers to populate that forest into what would look like a thriving population. You know what I mean, the density. What they have done is that they have strategically and tactically taken over the place.
That's within the forest area?
Yes. So the fact is that, you see, in 2014-15, I think, we actually were going to have military assistance from the UK to rescue these girls and so on. But when they came, they said there was corruption in our own ranks and that there was nothing they could do. When our house is divided, we can't stand. Mike, I think it was...
So that's the crux of the issue.
I think Senator Elisha Abo said it on the floor of the Senate last week. He said we had budgeted between 2012 and I think last year or so, 15 and last year, we budgeted a total of 4 trillion naira also for defense. I think that the people who are doing these things should state their consciences. It's beyond, it's security. But I think that something about our base, crude political humanity is also part of what is going on. Otherwise, I don't see any reason why we cannot, we won't have been able to surmount this challenge. Yeah. Countries face worse problems. Even Sri Lanka,
Nigeria was in Liberia. Liberia was not our country, but Nigeria was there, subdued it. Sierra Leone was not our country. Nigerian army went there, subdued everywhere, ensured everything was in. So when it comes to Sambisa Forest, I wonder, when it comes to the capacity of the Nigerian army, everybody feels that, just like you said, something is just amiss. It's not about the capacity of the Nigerian security agencies.
We should really
Jide, what do you
appeal.
think? Yeah, let me ask you.
I trust the capacity of the government, but he raised a very brilliant point. I suspect that some are benefiting from this. And if you are benefiting from the blood and sorrows of others, then you need to be getting ready to get to the gate of accountability. It's quite, if you know how much has gone into this, IDPs, now we have a Ministry of Humanitarian and Disaster Management. In management, you talk about SWOT analysis. You invest on your strength. As a nation, we are investing on our weakness. Now we are planning to develop IDP cities around the country, you know. So why won't we be poor? So those who are benefiting, making all the billions, should know that someday blood will make a request.
All right.
My nation needs to rise and prosper. And those who have the privilege should please ensure that.
All right. We wait to see how the government will handle this tactically and bring back the girls home. That's the ultimate concern of Nigerians. Thank you very much, Jide Ologun, for your concern on this and your insight. Cyril Abaku, thank you very much.
My pleasure, man.
Great.
I have with me in the studio lawyer and public affairs analyst Jide Ologun and senior researcher at TVC News, Cyril Abaku. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us at TVC Breakfast. All right, we head straight to the newspaper headlines now, and we begin with the Daily Trust. 6 years after, Chibok girls sighted at Sambisa Forest. Abductors ready for negotiation. Sources. We move to the News Direct now. Controversy trails ownership of $8.6 million seized by customs at Lagos Airport. Narco staff in customs custody. On the front page of the blueprint, minimum wage, Kwara and Niger raise concerns, Taraba yet to set up committee. Sani Bello begs, Abdulrazak says not feasible. 16 states not complying, 16 implemented. NLC rejects federal government's plan to borrow 2 trillion naira from pension fund. And finally, on the front page of the Daily Times, why federal government is seeking a $17 billion loan from China, minister says Nigeria has no issue with current debt profile, but with dwindling revenue. All right, gentlemen, we'll be looking at the story on the front page of the blueprint, still talking about minimum wage. It seems that this issue has dragged on for quite a while now. The deadline initially was December the 31st. It was moved to January, and now it's it has gotten into February, where we see in Kwara State the NLC asking the people there to declare 3 to 4 days fast for their demands to be met. I wonder what you make of this. I'll start with you, Jide Ologun. This issue of minimum wage still, dragging on.
The minimum wage is to cater for the vulnerable class of workers and is recognized by the International Labour Organization.
Absolutely.
To bring in justice in that sector. But here we are as a nation struggling to pay the minimum wage. Even when it was 18,000 naira, it was a struggle. Yeah. Now it's been increased. And I think it has to do with the absence of resourceful management of resources. When you look at Nigeria, I doubt if there is a state that is not endowed.
Absolutely.
But then we have probably cultivated the habit of not maximizing the resources we have. And what happens is that the revenue will not be available, because in wealth creation, you have to focus on revenue. And sometimes,
is it a case of we're not maximizing the revenue, or the fact that there is a law in place where state governors do not have as much access to the resources?
It's not about not maximizing it. If the state governors are, if they have the strong will, they would have engaged the federal government to move these minerals out of the exclusive legislative list. We have 109 senators, we have 360 House of Reps member representing Nigeria there. So if there is anything that is keeping us in poverty, why should it remain that way if you are really representing the people? We are ready that the gold deposit in Zamfara State has the capacity of giving that state $2 billion annually. What have we done? You see, and that is not to address the misplaced priorities and the mismanagement of our resources. My great country spent 11 trillion naira in 6 years in fuel subsidy. Does it make any economic sense? We've gone borrowing right now. I think our total indebtedness is about 27 plus percent trillion naira. So how do we move from here? And we are talking about corruption. When those who should earn minimum wage, in fact, the Constitution, Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999, as amended, stipulates minimum living wage.
Yeah.
Minimum living wage. So if we cannot pay it, why won't they be corrupt? And we are in a country where somebody came out to tell us he has 27 children and 4 wives. So you have a civil servant that have children to send to schools and things like that, different kinds of challenges in life, and you want your file to move. So we need to get serious.
Yes.
I don't want to tell you what the Bank of America is going to be paying their staff per hour in this year, 2020. It will make some very angry. So we need to be resourceful.
All right.
We need to engage our resources and begin to be creative about it all.
Let's bring Cyril in now. In Kwara State, the NLC there is asking the people the workers to take a 3-day, 4-day fast. Does it mean that they are helpless at this point? They can no longer push? Or what is it?
If you pay minimum wage of 30,000 naira, as paltry as that is, you are not doing the workers a favor. As a matter of fact, I think
the demands are yet to be met at the state level there.
Jide got it right. The fact is that, like I said, you're not doing workers a favor. One. Number two, I am particularly concerned and worried about Kwara State. And let me say it up front. I expect Governor Abdulrazak to do much better. Between May 29 last year and now, I've always said it in private circles that, look, there are about 3 or 4 governors in whom I see some hope. One is the governor of Oyo State, who is over and above, he's head and shoulders above all of them. After him, I think I put the governor of Borno, Zulum. You can see what he's doing in education and even security. After him, I put the governor of Zamfara. He is a groundbreaker. And then, lastly, the governor Abdulrazak. He came late to the party of innovators, but I saw some light and promise in what he was doing. If Governor Abdulrazak cannot pay workers their salaries, I am disappointed as a person, not because I'm from Kwara State or for any special reason. I expect more from him. This is someone who has always wanted to be in public office for a long time. He should have something better than what is going on in Kwara. Let me say this also that, like what we saw in Imo State, where the governor brought security vote to pay workers and so on. The money of the Kwara State government does not belong to the government. It belongs to the people. And this minimum wage issue has been on the front burner for a very long time. It took longer than it should take for the whole discussion and everything to come to the point where it is. Other governors are paying. You can borrow a leaf. The fact that you won't even sit down to think of what is doable is a problem. And look, let's not take it for granted.
But is the NLC pushing the way it should to ensure that the governors deliver in each state?
Of course they are. In fact, I have my hope in Taraba. I think the governor of Taraba State actually promised that they are going to look into this whole issue. So that was last year. I have some hope in Taraba. I don't know about Niger, but I think I have some in Taraba. The one in Kwara, I think what we need to do is that, like I said, now that the NLCs are negotiating with the governors in the various states, they can borrow a leave. The workers know how money is. They are the civil servants.
Of course.
They know where the money goes. So if the governor is saying that he cannot pay, they know enough to know why, the real reason why he cannot pay. And so there is need for them to engage a bit more, but I expect government to always take the lead. We run an aberration in the name of a federalism, where the federal government continues to give money to states in the name of allocation. It's an aberration. Yeah. The states have remained in an infancy. Kwara was created in 1967.
Why most governors are not thinking outside the box as expected of them.
So I think it's a policy issue. If you look at all these governors, go and check their manifestos when they are coming in for office. They had blueprints of how to turn their states into havens and
then the question is it so challenging for them to implement that?
Veronica, you take those out of my mouth. So I expect them to do a lot more. No governor should come out and tell Nigerians today that they cannot pay minimum wage. What the assembly is saying is that we don't have ideas. If you don't have ideas, go back to your house and let someone who has ideas and can implement, take over the reins of power. What we want them to do, what governors should be doing is to see that there must be a way.
There has to be a way.
He was talking about solutions, African problems. Bill Clinton said it in 1992. He said, every American problem has an American solution. The Chinese built a 1,000 hospital bed in 6 days. You need to sit down and think. You sit down and think of, this problem is not coming to the governor, to these governors right now.
All right.
So it's something that they should have sat down to think of plan A, plan B, plan C. If
Quickly,
it came
because,
this way, you know,
because we are pressed for time, quickly I'll come to you, Jide Ologun. You know that the minimum wage, it's for a certain number of years, it has to be reviewed. What are the prospects now, seeing the kind of challenge we are going through with the increment of the 30,000 naira? Do you foresee that?
If Nigeria deliberately migrates from poverty to prosperity, which is a possibility, there is no limit to what we can enjoy in this country. About 4.5% of the world resources have been deposited in Nigeria by God. You see, so we have the largest reserve of proven gas in Africa. So what are we talking about? The water resources, the climate, everything, potentials. But we are waiting to see how we renovate the National Assembly with 37 billion naira in 4 days. So misplaced priorities. I do not doubt the capacity of this government to do the right things. And I think we just need to disengage from the analog governance mindset and come to the future.
What will it take to do that? Because we are inching
It's
closer
all
towards
there. In fact, we have enough recommendations in Nigeria to run the whole world prosperously. But implementation.
God bless you.
Implementation. And under reinforcement theory in industrial psychology, if you don't deal with a bad situation, it can get worse.
All right.
So we can migrate from being the capital of poverty to becoming the capital of prosperity. Like Singapore.
All right.
Singapore was our classmate in poverty in the 60s.
All right.
But you can see deliberate good governance
Efforts,
rolled out there.
Thank
so
you,
Nigeria
gentlemen.
will rise and shine.
All right. We can only keep hoping.
That's our prayer and hope.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your contribution on the newspaper review this morning.